Welcome back to the Super Doc Stories podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Marissa Caudill, and I'm delighted today to be welcoming Dr. Nikia Smith from her childhood bedroom in Riverside, California, although she's normally based out of Las Vegas, and I am close to my childhood bedroom as well in New Hampshire this summer. So we're both not in our normal places, but enjoying the aspects that freedom gives us to be able to talk with each other wherever we're at. So welcome, Nikia.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So we were just discussing you are by training an anesthesiologist. Tell me a little bit
Yes.
about how you decided to become an anesthesiologist and how your first few years were in that career.
Yeah. So I was one of those kids that thought they wanted to be a doctor since they were 8. And so I made that happen. But I thought I was going to be a surgeon. But, that first day of surgical rotation, I went in there and was like, absolutely not. I'm not about that life. I was like, I can't do surgery. What am I going to do? I didn't want to do OB or peds or anything like that. And then my mentor now, but at the time, he just heard me talking in the background and he just peeked his head over the drape and he goes, I have something for you. And he was the anesthesiologist in the room. And he was like, come do a rotation with me. Come, let me tell you what this is about. And I just loved it. And so I applied for anesthesia, did anesthesia training, and I've been happy with that decision. The first few years were really good for me, actually. My first job was very collegial. We are very, a supportive group, a supportive team. And it was a nice variety of new attendings and seasoned attendings. So you could, ask people's advice and get opinions and, ask for help in a supportive environment.
All right. So how many years were you in your attending experience before you hit the wall? Because you told me you were burnt out years ago.
Yes.
So how long did it take
Yes.
for you to reach that point?
So for me to completely I crashed and burned. I was burnt to a crisp, gonna walk away from medicine. That was after COVID. So it was in
Mm.
2021.
Yeah.
That was when I just reached that breaking point. And as I was learning about burnout and learning about compassion fatigue and learning about different types of symptoms and stuff that you can have with burnout, I looked back and realized it had started a lot earlier. I just didn't know what it was, right? Because I'm like, I don't know, it feels off. I feel drained. I feel tired. Maybe I should change jobs. Then I changed from one job to another job, thinking maybe having less call or less acuity would help. But I still kind of stayed in that simmer of what I call it until I hit this job in Las Vegas and I completely burned out. And I was like, that's what was brewing this whole time. I was on my little slow journey to burnout. And now I just talk about it all the time so people know it doesn't happen overnight. It grows and festers. And if you can kind of catch it early, it's way easier to recover than if you wait till you're about to walk away from medicine and move to an island like I was. I got out of here.
It's so interesting. I mean, I think I also was definitely burnt out.
Mhm.
For me, it was working at Kaiser Permanente, which I had joined Kaiser Permanente after a few years in private
Mhm.
practice. And it was after I welcomed my second child that I was like, maybe I just want to work somewhere where I go in 8 to
Mhm.
5 and I don't have to worry anything except for, worry about things outside of those hours.
Yep.
And same thing, the pandemic made things pretty crazy. And like
Mhm.
you, it was like, well, I'll try to change my schedule. I cut back to 8/10s. I'll do more child psych, less adult psych, trying all these things to, my husband said, it's like you're trying to make this shirt fit you and it just
Yeah.
doesn't. um, and in retrospect, when I was in it, I really felt like it wasn't it wasn't that it was a poor fit. It was that I was somehow failing to adjust
Mhm.
myself appropriately.
Yes.
And when I left the position, it was with a lot of guilt. It was really hard. That time was
Mhm.
stressful. It was very stressful.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until probably about 6 months later that I really felt my identity come back and some version of the energy that I have normally
Mhm.
in my identity and wanting to bring something to people and help people. Not that I didn't want to help people before, but it was helping because I had to in the way that I was
Yeah.
told to. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah.
And that summer, 2022, man, I was I don't know if it was that I had COVID in May, so maybe it was a post-COVID thing, or
Mhm.
maybe it was just my nervous system resetting, but I napped every day because I took a break, kind of my first
Yep.
sabbatical in my life, and I would make it to about 2, 3 o'clock, and then I was like, "I gotta go lie down." And my family was like,
Yep.
"Again? Are you okay?" And I was just like, "I can't keep my eyes open. I don't know what it is." I thought maybe it's mono. But I think that was
Yes.
just like the physical aspect. Have you, in your work with people who have burnout, experienced that I think we live with
Yes.
this adrenaline and cortisol for so many years
Yep.
that when we
I was
finally
running
pull the plug, we're just like, what happened?
What? What happened? I said, "Once you start slowing down, you can't stop." I was living off of caffeine and cortisol, and after that job, I took a 3-month sabbatical, and for the first month, it was really difficult because I felt like I should be doing something, but that 2nd month hit, and I was just dead, like, dead, and I was like, I thought I was gonna be getting more done while I was off from work, and I literally was just, like, recovering. And so I always
Mhm.
tell people, like, it's gonna take a lot longer than you think. And by the 3rd month, I was like, this feels pretty good. But then I went back to work the 4th month and I was like, honestly, I took 3 months. I felt like I could have benefited from 6 months, but I probably could have taken a year. Like if
Yeah.
like mentally and emotionally, not financially, I wish. But like if I could have taken an entire year away, I think that would have been the best. But if I had taken a few more months, because you have to ease into it. Your body is in shock. Your body is like, what's
Mhm.
happening? We're not going to work. We're not having 85 espressos. We're not drinking water. We're not running off of adrenaline. And then after that initial shock wore off, my body was like, oh, finally, and like crashed. Um, but it felt really good. It felt really good to just like release, I guess. It felt like a release for me. Like, I don't know, the cortisol was clearing, everything was flushing out. And it was a beautiful moment. And I always try to tell people if you can afford to, like if you feel burnt out and you can afford to take time off, then take it off. And if you're going to just take only a week or two, then make it count. Like really
Mhm.
be off. Really just like don't be off, but doing everything in your house, like painting and remodeling and all the loads of laundry. Like, no, be off.
Mhm. So hard to do. Yeah,
Mhm.
that summer I started working when I was 14, and that summer I was 44. So I was like, okay, every 30 years you should take like a summer
Yeah,
break.
take some time. Take
um,
some time.
and my friends were like, haha, but I was like, actually, it's really true. Like in most European countries, they give their employees like a
Mhm.
sabbatical after every 6 years,
Yeah,
8 years, something like that. We don't have that, right? We just work, work,
no,
work.
keep
Um,
working.
so, all right, tell me about your work now with other women
Mhm.
physicians who've experienced burnout or who are trying to maintain without burning out. Like, what is it that you
Yeah.
do and what do you love about it?
Um, I love everything about it, honestly, so that was the easiest one to answer. I just really I believe in women. I believe that we are amazing, we're powerful, we are super women. We're not like, like not in the sense of doing everything and handling everything on our own, but in the sense that we literally do the best under the worst circumstances. Like we get paid the least, we have the longest hours, but we still have the best patient outcomes. Like that is the power of a woman who cares. And
Mhm.
I think that women in medicine, especially, are very important because the only way that anything is really going to change is if we lead the charge. Not saying it should fall on us, but I think collectively it's going to be us that makes the necessary changes in healthcare. So, like, we can't all just walk away. Some people do need to walk away. Some people need to just revisit how they work in medicine, like I did. But I think that by helping the ones who want to stay, or the ones who think they want to walk away, realize if they really do or not. Because I would have told you I was going to walk away, but here I am mentoring
Mhm.
medical students and residents now, but just trying to educate them on how they can, work differently in the system. Like that's the importance of the future of medicine and women in medicine. So I love everything about the work I do. And it just came from my own story. It came from me admitting I was burnt out and just telling people, like, instead of saying, "How are you doing?" I'm fine. I'm like, actually, I'm burnt out. I'm burnt to a crisp. I'm thinking about leaving medicine. And just that one, change in my conversation changed my entire trajectory because then some of them were like, "Oh, really? Maybe you should look at working here. Maybe you should try this." And then some people were just like, "Me too." And I just felt like guilt around it. And I'm like, here we are. Like, so now just sharing the stories, being on the journey, pulling people through their journey so that they can come through quicker than I came through, or mostly identify quicker than I identified. Everybody's recovery is their own journey, but like if you can identify the burnout really early, you can recover more quickly and you can kind of be prepared to move differently to prevent burning out again. And that's just my goal.
I saw something recently and it was I'm going to get her name wrong, which is horrible. It's my perimenopause brain. Mary
Mhm.
Claire Carver or something. The woman who wrote the
Hey,
new
hey,
perimenopause.
yeah.
Am I saying,
Yeah,
what is
Mary
it?
Claire. It's Mary Claire. Is it Hagar? Mary Claire
It's
Hagar?
something
Hagar?
that I'm not remembering, and I'm so
Okay, but I
sorry,
know.
Mary
Yeah,
Claire.
Mary Claire. I
So
know. We
she
love you
she has
though.
a I know, yeah, we totally love you, and sorry, my brain. But like, so she had a podcast, and she was talking with a woman who I
Mhm,
should know her name too, but she basically was saying how the low point in happiness for women is like age 47, which
mhm,
was close to, I would say, like where I hit the wall. And so I'm curious, with the work that you've done over these last
mhm,
6 years, like, is that aligning for you? Like, do you think that it is a time in medicine, or does it depend, or is it an age? Because I think a lot of things do coalesce for women in this transition from
mhm.
the childbearing years to the next phase of life, which many of
Right.
us didn't give much thought to or planning
Mhm,
about. And then you hit this and you realize, like, well, I have a lot of life left in me, and
mhm.
this is not how I want to live it, like at
Yeah.
some point. And it all kind of comes crashing down. So I don't know. I guess I'm curious, like, how is the biology for us as women impacting this kind of midlife crisis we tend to be having, that maybe
Yeah. I
burnout,
think
maybe something else? Do you think there's a there? Is there some
there's
relationship?
definitely a there. I think some of it is. I think it's a combination, but I do feel like I'm in Perry right now, and I if I had hit Perry like 2, 3 years ago when I was in the deep parts of my burnout, it would have been insane. Like, I don't know how people get through that, because 'cause I'm just like, I'm completely losing it. And at this is the point where I'm having, like, my optimal, like, life, I'm eating good food, I'm drinking water, I'm getting enough sleep, and I'm still, like, losing it. So at that point when I was only sleeping 3 hours and not eating or drinking and just whatever, what would have happened? And my life would have probably exploded. So I do think that there is something to be said for that. I just think that as we're having these conversations more now than we were in the past, that women are just becoming more aware sooner. And even now, like some of the training programs are teaching residents about burnout. And I'm just like, this is great. We didn't learn about that. We learned about getting enough sleep and then told to go be on call for 36 hours. So I'm
Uh-huh.
hoping that the tide is turning and that at least some parts, like not the biological parts, but the situational parts, the system parts of that low being 47 can be altered. And we can not push through, but we can push through by changing how things are going, not push through by tolerating how things have been, but push through by changing and preventing ourselves from reaching such a point where we're literally burnt out from the system and then we're crashing out because of our hormones.
Yeah. So, what do you think is most effective in the work that you do? Tell me about, like, what
Mhm.
you do at these retreats, and what do you think is most helpful? What's the feedback that you get from the women who attend these retreats that you host?
Yes, and so that's the interesting thing is what I personally think would be, like, the most effective or most beneficial is not always what they say, right? We're all at different points in our times in our
Mm,
careers. Some of them are mothers, some are not, some are newly married, some are long married, some are in transition from full-time to part-time or whatever it is. So we all see what is the most beneficial part of the retreat differently, which is why I love doing the testimonials when they say, "What's your favorite part?" And, like, this was my favorite part, and I was like, "Wow." Um, but I do think that we all have this mindset and we have to have it to get to this point, especially of being female physicians, of like pushing through and hustling and doing the most. And we did like a time audit at my last retreat about where you spend the time and where you want to spend the time. And one of my friends, or like one of my retreat attendees, who's now a friend, obviously, because we get so close, she was like, I just thought I had so much time and that I wasn't doing this thing and I was feeling guilty because I told myself I had the time to do X, but I just wasn't doing it. But when I filled my time in, I don't actually have the time to do it. So I can at least give myself grace for that. And now I'm like, yeah. So now you were guilting yourself because you're like, I have so much time. I should be doing this. But you look at it, you don't actually have time. You always just feel like you have so much time to do things and you don't. And I said, so now don't feel guilt about that, but just decide if that is something that you want to be doing, if it's going to be important for you in this next quarter, then where can you crop time out and create the time for that? So don't feel
mhm.
guilty about, the time you think you have or how you should be spending it, but do be intentional about where you want to spend it.
I think there's got to be like something, again, with our female brains, where we think we have more time than we do, and we think that we can get more done in the time that
That
we
we
have than we
yeah, that we
can.
can.
I don't
Yes,
know
we
what that
think we
is,
can.
but I have a sister. We're very close. She's got 3 kids. I've got 2. And we're always talking about how, like, if you have one day off, like the kids are gone or whatever,
Mhm.
you're like, I'm going to get so much done. And then, like, before you know it, it's time to get the kids or pick them up. And you're like, I didn't get 1/3 of the
Nothing.
stuff done that I wanted to get done. And there's that book by Laura. Oh gosh, no, I can't remember her name either. I was gonna say Hillenbrand, but I think that's the one who wrote
Mhm.
Seabiscuit. My brain is just not working today, but it's 168 hours, and then she has another one. I don't know how she does it, but it's basically these books
Mhm.
about women juggling all the things and how
Yeah.
there isn't that much time actually. And even when there is, I think we guilt ourselves for taking any time, just downtime, to like read a book
Yes.
or do nothing. Like
Mhm.
that doesn't get factored in. And I see this in
Mm-mm.
our coaching that we do at our business too, where people will like plan all this stuff and I'm like, "Okay, but when are you gonna eat? When are you gonna work out? When are
Mhm.
you gonna spend time with your kids?" And then they're like, "Oh, yeah."
Yeah, yeah.
Like, so there's not as much time as we think there is, and yet we
We're
have these
not.
high expectations. So how much does that contribute to I mean, you were just talking about burnout, and then you were saying you were sleeping 3 hours a day and probably
Mm.
working lots of call. Like, how is that
Mhm.
burnout? That's just, like, not allowing your body to get the basics of what it needs. Burnout to me
Yes.
implies that somehow it's your fault, and that was so not your
Yeah.
fault, you
It's
know?
not your fault. I don't think that burnout necessarily implies that it's your fault, but did speak up about this before. Like sometimes we misconstrue like, oh, I have to take better like self-care as just like you said, basic human needs. Like drinking
Mhm.
water, eating good food, moving your body and resting are not self-care. That is like
That's the
human
bottom
living.
foundation. That's the
That
minimum.
is literally what is required to live.
I know.
So we have to like, oh, I did self-care, I slept. I'm like, that's just basic maintenance. That's literally what your body needs to maintain. So like, what is your self-care? And so I agree, like those parts are not burnout, but people will like to say that they're exhausted and they just need sleep. But then when they start to sleep more and prioritize rest and do all these things, they'll find that they still feel off, right? They still feel a little bit depleted. They still feel a little bit either numb or overstimulated or a little bit foggy. And those parts are because rest isn't enough to like fully recover from burnout, because burnout is not just the physical exhaustion, it's also the mental and emotional components that we like to ignore because we can justify them by being exhausted. Like, oh, I'm just cranky, I'm just irritable because I'm exhausted. But then when you stop being exhausted and you still have those kind of feelings, then you realize something a little bit deeper is happening. Um, but like I said, I agree with you. Burnout, like it is fueled by ignoring your basic needs, but it's fueled by ignoring all the things that you need. Your body, your mind, anything that you need to replenish yourself and restore yourself, you're pretty much ignoring it for whatever reason and whatever capacity. And so we have to just bring, like awareness to that and like the schedule. I can schedule all of it. Please schedule your joy. Please schedule your rest. Please schedule eating. People will not eat. I used to be that person. I wouldn't eat or drink because it would slow me down. And here we are.
Yeah. So do you have, any, like, assessment tools? Like, if someone was listening to this and being like, "I think maybe I'm
Yes.
burned out," like, where do you send them? I'm guessing there's free things. Maybe you have stuff on your own
Yeah.
website?
So yes, on my webs there is definitely free burnout quizzes and resources that are great, and I would like do them and track them. I have my own resources that are not like as clinically sound as those. These mine are just really based on like lived experiences of me and
Mhm.
like my clients. And so I have an exhaustion quiz because people will say they're exhausted, but like I said, there's different types of exhaustion, and different types of exhaustion require different types of rest. Dr. Sandra Dalton wrote a book about 7 types of rest, and I was like, wow, this is great. Like you can't just sleep more; you have to do other things as well,
Ugh.
which is be creative, get movement, stimulate your brain, but not in a non-phone, non-TV way.
Right. Yeah.
um, and so there's other things that you can do that will rest you in different capacities, mentally, physically, emotionally, and recharge you. And so that is a good place to start. Take the quiz. I have some samples of things you can do. And there's also a checklist that just lists a lot of different things that you might be feeling if you are burned out or on the way to burnout. And like the more you check, obviously, the more serious. Like if you checked all of them, which is where I was, I'd be like, you're gonna burn out. If you haven't already burnt out, you're going to. And if you just checked a little bit of them, you could be like, oh, okay, like I noticed that, and now maybe I should just pay attention to how I can have better boundaries and prioritize my rest and self care. And in healthcare, it's especially hard because to prioritize your health and self care in a system not made for that, you're really fighting against the machine. They want you to be productive. And they might say, yeah, you'd be more rested so you can be more productive, but you also just need to be more rested so you can just be your best self. And so we need to just realize that and, kind of I always just say this, like mentally just prepare yourself that you're working in a system that's not meant for you to be rested and energized. You're working in a system that's meant for you to be depleted and complacent.
That makes me so angry. Like, that is
Hmm.
so not how it should be. Like, how should healthcare be squeezing its doctors so hard, that like
Yeah.
we are burning out? Like, it doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense to me. This is kind of why I'm so passionate about what we do at Super Duck Tech and this podcast to help people see, like,
Yes.
you don't have to tolerate that. It's pretty
Hmm.
ridiculous. And it's the whole, my son keeps talking about late stage capitalism. And I'm like, I never heard that term before, but I get it. Like, that's where we're
Yeah.
at, right? Like, when
Hmm.
I started med school in the late 90s, there were still a lot of doctors with their private practices who were able to take insurance as solo providers and make a good
Hmm.
living. And now,
Yep.
as insurance companies have become public entities and traded on the stock market, and they're beholden to shareholders to always be posting
Yep.
profits, like you add 25, 30 years to that, and all of a sudden, like the physicians who are now 80% employed by the big healthcare
Hmm.
organizations are just being squeezed for their RVUs. And the
Oh,
balance
for
is
sure.
completely off? So
Yeah.
something has to give because at the end of the day, people get upset that there's like mistakes in hospitals and medical
Hmm.
errors, but those are more likely to happen if all of your healthcare providers are overworked
Are
and,
burned out. Yep.
burnt out and not sleeping and not eating. That's pretty ridiculous. In order to
It is.
take
It's
good
also
care of someone, you have to be kind of optimized.
is to yourself. And that's the part. I'm like, you can't get better outcomes out of burnt out people. And
Mm-mm.
that's the part we're missing. Like, not us, we know it, we're living it, but it's like the big picture. When you have the entities and the venture capitalists entering the health space, making decisions, that's where the moral injury comes in. Like, you're forced to do certain things, and people don't understand that. And they do like to blame the doctor. And I'm like, it's not really my decision. I'm sorry. It's not my decision where you had your surgery. But I didn't want to come here. I'm like, I'm sorry you're here. That's an issue with your insurance, and your insurance has that issue because of they're doing this thing, and it really has nothing to do with me. But the overall system is mm, it's a terrible system. So I don't know what's going to happen in the
It's
future.
definitely not optimized. It's definitely got plenty of
No,
room for improvement. I mean,
a
it's
lot of
it's
room
not
for improvement.
it's not anyone's fault. I totally get why we are where we're at.
Hmm.
But how about like just granularly, when you are working with a physician who's experiencing symptoms of burnout, what
Hmm.
percentage would you say when they get unburnt out, when they what's the word? When they
Yeah.
recover? Like
Recover. Yeah.
what's the percentage of reducing their workload, because I feel like that's often part of the answer,
Yeah.
versus changing their boundaries, changing their mindset, changing their habits and the where they're spending their time. Because I feel like what was very true in my experience of recovery was recognizing where I was contributing to the problem by
Hmm.
either not making a choice that I needed to make for myself or not speaking up for myself because I thought someone would get upset or say no, or
Hmm.
letting myself be spread too thin because of my feelings of obligation to other people
Yeah.
at work, at home, wherever. And so I had to realize that, like, to some extent, it was my own fault, right?
Hmm.
Like, not that we're blaming people who are burnt out, but like, to some extent, it was my own fault. But I guess I'm curious, like, to what extent is it shifting their mindset? Like, what is the biggest part of the recovery? Or does that also depend on the person when you're working with
It
clients?
depends on the person. It really does because like I was the person that said I was going to walk away from medicine completely. But then as I did the mindset work and kind of grew boundaries and decided what was important to me, I then found a job that actually fit into what I deemed my box, right? I'm like, this is my boundaries. I'm not doing nights. I'm not doing weekends. I'm not taking call for now. I want to just do this, this outpatient 9 to 5 kind of job, or 8 to 4 job. And I found that job. And then I worked that job full time for 3 or 4 years after recovering from burnout. So I don't think that it has to necessarily be like an all or nothing situation, but I did change how I also moved, right? I was still working full time, but I was also saying no to working extra or picking up extra shifts. Like, I was holding my boundaries strong of, this is my off day, or like if I request time off, like, hey, we need you to come in. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm unavailable. Like, those things in the past that would have made the work exponentially compounded, because not only are you working more, but it's the emotions behind it, because you're feeling guilty, you're feeling obligated, or you're feeling forced and then resentful, or you're feeling those things. And so, yes, you're physically working more, but then you're also feeling those emotional things, and that leads to the compassion fatigue, the irritability, the resentment. And those are parts that are emotionally draining. I was living with a lot of resentment at my old job. Even though I was working a lot, I think I was heavily burdened with resentment for how I was manipulated and gaslit, versus like working full time and then just saying, this is my boundary and I'm going to have to say no to that. So it is a combination, and it's up to you to decide how you kind of want to move. But I will say this, a lot of women who I start to work with think that work is the primary cause of their burnout. But when you unpack everything, it's not work. It's probably 50-50 personal and professional. And they're also those same things in their personal life, where they're overextending, they're feeling guilt, or they're feeling shame, or they're feeling resentment. And those things compound. So it's like, you can decrease your workload, but if you're not, like, again, changing how you are thinking and acting and replying, then you will burn out, because you're going to always overextend, and just overextend, and then become depleted in whatever capacity. Like, you can be like, I'm a doctor, I'm burnt out. I can quit and become an entrepreneur, a full-time entrepreneur. Guess what? I can burn out being a full-time entrepreneur, because if I have poor boundaries, then the clients will come all over me the way that the hospital administration has. So again, I think it's really, really getting into that mindset and setting an expectation of what you really want, and not just going with what you've been told you wanted, or what you've been told it has to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that aligns with my experience too. Like, had to realize the ways that were gonna follow me, even if I took a different job, even if I did
Mhm.
something else. Like, if I didn't change certain aspects of who I was in the story I was telling myself about what saying no meant, or what
Mhm.
agreeing to something meant, then things were gonna be the same, or just repeated in a new environment, right?
Yep.
Um, so tell me a little bit about how people find you, how you work
Mhm.
with your clients, and what your retreats look like.
Yes. So people mostly just find me from doing podcasts, or I attend a lot of events and just network. And they can find me on my website, www.sheisfireforged.com, or on socials at sheisfireforged. But my first retreat, actually my first few retreats, literally were just word of mouth through people who I knew. Because I was like, I'm going to this resort for a week, but I'm really going with the intention of being like D&D, phone off, tap in, reflect, meditate. I'm not just going to like go to the spa and roast by the pool, which is what I would normally would do. I want to take this serious. I'm really feeling away, and I need to kind of reconnect with myself. And when I was just saying that, I was doing this, I'm doing this, like, all the girls were like, oh, I need this. I need this. And I was like, okay, if you're serious, I'm going to make this a thing. So I secured the block. I got the CME approved. I created the agenda, and we had a retreat, and it was amazing. And I was like, I can't believe I did this, like, I'm so tired, I'm so exhausted, but I actually was energized and like refilled by planning this for these women, and giving them this safe space and giving them this environment. And so that was just the first retreat, which ended up being my solo trip planned into a group trip. And I've repeated that same kind of retreat every year. It's gotten a little bit bigger. People will bring a friend, people will hear about it, and they'll want to come. But I do keep it intimate, because we do talk about really like vulnerable and private stuff about
Yeah.
how we feel about our life without judgment. And I don't want it to be so big that people feel like they can't really share, because that's the part that helped me recover more quickly, was just putting it out there.
Yeah.
And then feeling validated. I know we don't think we need validation, but sometimes when someone goes, yeah, me too, you're just like, oh, thank gosh, I'm not the only crazy person. Because you'll be at work at Kaiser, and they'll be like, yeah, you're the only one that's having a problem with the schedule. Everybody else is fine. And I'm like, oh, I had that same thing. I was like, I'm the problem. But then you start talking and you realize you're not the problem. The system is the problem, and some people are willing to go with it, and some people are willing to not. And when you find your people, then everything just feels better. Like, it really feels better when you feel supported and understood and heard. So that's how the
100%.
retreat started, and I've continued to do them every year. So this will be September will be my 5th physician wellness retreat and my 8th retreat overall. And I just love being that safe space, creating that safe space, and just seeing the women connect with each other, come in as strangers, leave as friends, meeting up with each other off like, oh, hey, we met. And I'm like, oh, that's great. This is the point. Like, this is the point of being together, being connected, and helping each other get through this.
That's amazing. It sounds really magical. Do you have room left in your
Mhm.
September retreat?
I do have room left, so if people want to come, like they should book. I have a few spots left. I think I have 3.
Okay.
So
So it's sheisfireforged.com. That's the website.
.com. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Well, anyone listening, that's probably lots of people who feel like
Yeah.
they could use it. It's only open to women for now.
This retreat is only open to women physicians.
I
I
think
do
that's
have
totally
some
fine.
retreats. Yeah, I have some other ones coming up that are open to other women providers and healthcare and healers, but this one is women physicians. Yes.
Well, I love it. I think it's a beautiful thing that you've built, and people get CME as well. I mean, that makes it even
Ye
a no-brainer because they
Yes.
can use their funds
Yes.
from their hospital
Use
or
their
whatever to pay
funds
for it.
or write it off.
Yeah, winning. And so important. I mean, I really think it's critical, CME, because if
Mhm.
you want to continue in medicine, you have to be able to do it in a balanced way. And that
Yes.
involves finding what that balance means for you. Because as you were saying,
Mhm.
I felt that too at Kaiser. You're in a room and you may be the only one who's having a problem. That doesn't mean that you're weaker than everybody else or that you can't handle it, but there may be other things going on in your life, this phase of your life, whatever it is. Like,
Mhm.
only you can know what is the right balance for you, right?
Yep.
And it changes. It's not the same
Mhm.
now that my kids are older as it was 6 years ago when they were younger.
Yep.
So it's also a very dynamic thing throughout our lifetime. Well, thank you so much
Yes, I
for
love
talking
that.
with us about your own journey in burnout and how you are thriving as a physician and the support that you're giving to other women physicians, especially. It was so great to meet
Mm.
you, Nikia, and I hope that we can get you a lot of new clients.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. I just love sharing my story. Just if one person knows that they're not alone from hearing what I had to say, then I'm like, thank God. Because it's so isolating when you feel like, oh, it's just me.
Totally, totally. No, it's so
Yeah.
important to talk about this stuff. And I really want to say, I think it's very refreshing that you can talk about it. Clearly, you've talked about it a lot, but like you can
Hmm.
talk about your burnout without getting emotional, without having shame, which is
Yeah.
ideal, right? Like it shouldn't be something that you have to hide. It's something that you went
No.
through, that you recovered from, and that you can help
Hmm.
other people get out of too. It's not a
Yes,
permanent state of being. Awesome. Well,
it's
thank you
not.
so
Thank
much.
you. Have a good one.